And we're live. Good evening and welcome to the Arundel Camera Club meeting for Thursday, March 2nd. My name is John Milliker and I'm club president for 2022-2023 season. The Arundel Camera Club was founded in 1957 and exists to promote the arts, science, and education in all aspects and fields of photography. For more information about us, please visit arundelcameraclub.org. We are so happy to be now meeting in person and also online. If you are local to Anne Arundel County, Maryland, we encourage you to visit us at the Severna Park Baptist Church, located at 506 Benfield Road, Severna Park, Maryland. We have cookies. Come on out. We're having a good time. I want to talk about, we're having a couple stream dropouts again. If you were here, you won't have a problem with that. But if you miss anything, just a reminder, we do put all of our streams on YouTube in a few days. I sent an email out today about the Woods Church exhibit. That is, you have until March 16th. This is something that's open to paid members only at this time, just because we are so limited in how much we can put up there. We can put up, I believe it was 30 images that were no bigger than 30 inches on the longest side, and that is the frames. I'm asking everybody that's interested, please email me 3 of your images that you are committing to print and frame. All the guidelines are on email. Please email me that in 2 weeks. March 16th at midnight is the deadline. Send me 3 images, but tell me what order. Which is your first choice, second choice, third choice? That way, if I can only get 1 image from everybody to make sure everybody gets in this exhibit, I know exactly what image we're going to go to. Woods Church is going to print us out brochures and publicize everything. Check your email on that. And if you're not a paid member and would like to be a part of this exhibit, we are halfway through our year and membership dues are 50%. That is $20. For $20 and frame and mat and your prints, you can also be a part of this. I'm going to be working with the officers on trying to get a reception going like we did the year before COVID. Do we have any announcements from any club officers? Yes, sir.
MPA, Odyssey of Light, $15. If you want to know the code, check the email from me, which I'll probably be in the junk box. So
MPA, Odyssey of Light is coming up, $15. There is a code that Ron sent to members that gets you a discount. If you don't have it, check your spam folder. And if you just don't have it there, then reach out to Ron, and I'm sure he'll be able to help you out there. Do we, any other announcements? Well, then let's get Christine, our program director, to talk about our upcoming schedule and then introduce our wonderful speaker for tonight. There you go.
Good evening. Next week we have on March 9th our digital contest with which is virtual, so please don't come to the church, with the theme of open. On March 11th is our field trip to the National Building Museum. And then on March 16th is a program by Mark Baptista on composition and shooting with intent. On March 23rd is our print contest, both color and monochrome, with the theme also of open. And then on March 30th, we're going to be having a studio night. For those of you online, we probably will not be streaming much. If you are going to be here or if you have models that can come in, please let me know. I'm reaching out to try to find a couple people that I know. And if you want to bring a lighting setup also, please reach out to me and let me know so that I know what we have for that evening. And that's what I have for the schedule. Tonight we have Padma Inguva, who is speaking on floral photography, and I'm going to hand it off to her. Welcome.
All right. So it's my fault that I did not send the bio to Christine, so I'm going to introduce myself. There's not much to say. I'm just a crazy photographer, and I do work as an IT professional in my other life. And I'm from New Jersey, so I'm here because I come here every week for work. So that said, so I started off photography in 2011 when I was going through divorce, so it's a very difficult time. So either spend money on a therapist or get a hobby, right? So I got a hobby. And also I was about to lose my house, and I had a huge garden that I established over the years, about like 5-6 years. And it's like a half-acre lot full of flowers. I had like 80 kinds of roses and clematis and all kinds of stuff. So I knew that I would be losing the house because I couldn't afford it by myself. So that's another reason why I got my camera. And so I did that spring, 2012 spring. And I got pretty good at it, except all my pictures were like as they are, or they were, but not really any fine art component to it, more like snapshots. It's like more like, I had a journal of, I had 8 David Austin roses, and I have those and that, whatever, right? So then I came across a few books. One of them is Brian Peterson, Macro. One of them is Harold Davis, How to Photograph Flowers, Tony Sweet. So I got all these books, and then I went through them. So my my personality is like if I want to learn something, I just go all at it. So that's what I did. So after that, it did not bother me that I was losing my garden, because then I recognized that there are so many opportunities if I'm not bound to my own garden, which is nurseries and botanical gardens and all that. Even neighbors' houses, I would ask permission and just, I have like a couple of neighbors who have like beautiful gardens. So I have a permission to just go even when they're not there. They don't have any problem. So even their dogs don't bark at me anymore. So that's how I developed my art. And slowly I moved into other genres. But every time I see right now magnolias, whenever I'm driving, my first instinct is to take the scissors and run to them so that I can take them home. I always carry macro lens with me everywhere I go, and the clippers with me everywhere I go. So I have a website, padmasworld.com. If you have a minute, go check it out, because like I said, I also practice other genres. One of my other obsession is photographing churches and cathedrals, and I make lots of waterramas. In case if you're interested to bring me back, I can actually give you some useful tips on how to photograph places of worship. So again, what's my objective in doing photography in general and doing flowers is basically, long time ago I realized that, okay, it's very nice if I post on social media and people like it. It just gives me validation. But then I realized that, okay, if nobody likes my pictures, if nobody sees my pictures, will I be happy? And I realized, yes, I will be, because it's not just the taking the pictures that is making me happy, but with my camera, I get to travel to so many places, or even to regular parks, and wherever I go, I started looking at things, observing and internalizing them, and appreciating them, even like little things, like little crocuses and everything.
I'm just going to move this so I can reach the...
No problem.
Sorry.
All right, and that's how I realized, okay, so what is my objective in photographing anything is to appreciate things around me and just be happy. And everything else is icing on the cake. If you ask me to come and speak, I don't mind. If you don't ask me ever to come back, I don't mind. If you ask me questions, yes, please. If you ask me questions, I would be very happy to answer or help out even later on. I'm on social media. If you want to see me on Facebook, I'm usually, at least like once a week, I try to post something there. Now, what are the best places to photograph? This is about flowers, so I'm going to stick to that. Best places to photograph, obviously, if you have flowers in your own garden, or if you want to grow flowers for your photography, that would be the best place. Then you can actually, like you want to photograph anemones or dahlias and all that, then sometimes the florists don't have that. I'll wait for 1 minute. So florists usually don't have that. Or magnolias, for example. Florists cannot sell magnolias. Peonies. There are only a couple of peonies that you get every now and then at the florist. Otherwise, it's better to grow them yourself. So that's the first, number one best place. Number two, nurseries. Why I like nurseries is because most of their stuff are in pots. So you can actually take the pot and then go to a corner, set up the way you want to set up, as long as you're not disrupting their business, as long as you are not an obstruction, and you're not going on the weekends and actually, taking up space in their aisles, usually they should not have any problem. For example, near my house, there are 3 nurseries, and I've been going to them from like 2012, and now they became kind of friends. And I drop off some prints sometimes. Pretty much every year, I drop off a half a dozen prints. And then they don't mind, as long as, again, I keep to myself somewhere in the corner, and then I bring back and put the parts like as I saw them. So as long as I'm not disruptive, again. So why not botanical gardens compared to nurseries is because you cannot do those shenanigans in the botanical gardens. You cannot touch anything. God forbid you take your tripod and put it into one of the beds, that they're going to come and warn you. That happened a couple of times to me. You can only ignore so much. So botanical gardens are somewhere on the list as well. And also, I like to go to any kind of wildflower gardens. There are some patches along New Jersey Turnpike that I stop by sometimes. It is not advisable for other people, but for me, it's okay, I guess. I don't mind. I'm not advising that you should stop. And of course, neighbors, if anybody is a garden enthusiast, then definitely that would be a good place to go to. So those are all the places generally. Worst case scenario, not even worst case scenario, generally in winter, what I do is I go buy some flowers from Trader Joe's, farmer's market, florist, wherever. I bring them home, and then I do photograph them on Lightbox. I'm one of the, I would say I'm the second best in the country, or I aspire to be second best in the country to do that kind of Lightbox photography. The first best is Harold Davis. If you have not looked at his work, please do. He is unbelievable. If you put Harold Davis Lightbox flowers on Google, you will see. Unbelievable. So I want to be the second best. It's hard to beat him. All right. So this is not like totally a basics class. So I'm just going to go over just quickly. Of course, a camera. Even iPhone can take some excellent macro images. You just need some kind of macro converters. I'm not a big iPhone fan. I use the iPhone just to document stuff, but if I want to do something fine art, I want my whole ritual, which is, I want a macro lens, and I got some extension tubes on top of that, like different things. But iPhone definitely does adequate job. If you don't want to invest in like a camera or whatever, it shouldn't stop you. And then I usually carry my tripod with me everywhere I go. Would I use it? It depends. If I'm in a hurry, I wouldn't. Otherwise, I like to. Why? Because the tripod, I'm a very high energy kind of person. So I'm running from one place to the next place to the next place. So if I have a tripod, that means it makes me slow down. It makes me think. It makes me forcefully observe my composition and everything. So what I do generally when I'm using the tripod is don't attach your camera to the tripod right away. Or every time you take a shot, you're done, take the camera out, go around a bush or whatever that you're looking at, and look for the right angle, and then come back, get the tripod, then adjust your tripod. Because if you leave your camera on your tripod, then you're limited to whatever the height it is. You're not changing your point of view. You're not trying to move. So there are advantages and disadvantages. So you have to get the best possible way for you, which is, okay, you take the shot, that is to slow you down, but at the same time, take the camera and try to explore different angles. And macro lens, obviously, but if you have lens babies and you want to be a little different, by the way, blur is in. If anybody is having any doubts, there was once upon a time people used to take flower images, f16 with a flash, daytime, just go and shoot as many as you want. Everything is tack sharp, and still a lot of people try to follow the technique. But if you really want to go into this poetic kind of images, if you really want to get that impressionistic look, then you want to play with the shallow depth of field, or lens babies will give you that kind of beautiful blurry look. And I personally like it. I don't use it as much, only because I'm doing like 1,000 things at a time. But there are a couple of recommendations that I can give you if you are looking into lens babies. And then I have a couple of old Russian lenses, Helios, 44.2, 44.5. I think I have 44.6 7 if I'm right. So anyway, and they also give like very, very nice bokeh. And they cost you about $60 to $70 if you go on eBay and check it out. And then I have seen people, the very first time I've seen like 5-6 years ago, one guy was using a 600 millimeter lens to photograph dahlias, like way back. Everybody was like hovering over at the bed, Dahlia's bed, and then he was like way back, and he was taking his sweet time. I was like, what is he doing? So I checked his work, and it was just amazing. So don't be afraid to use whatever the lens that you have with you and experiment, because every lens has its own characteristics that you don't know until you actually use them in a different way than what you're used to already, okay? Now, the optional stuff that you want to carry with you, and especially if you're driving, you can put all these things in a box or something, and then the cable release, diffusers, reflectors, and then a small portable light that I carry with me, an LED panel, very small one, or LumiCube or something you can buy. And then I also carry like a very fine mist spray bottle. You can buy it on Amazon for like $5-7. And I also carry a couple of other things. The metal frog. So metal frog, you cannot, please don't use that in the botanical gardens. Don't pinch any flowers at the nurseries or any place. But if you are on the roadside, and suppose you want to maintain the distance between the flower and the background, because to create beautiful bokeh, you need that distance. And sometimes if you're just there in the field, there is no distance because everything is jumbled up. So in that case, what I do is I pinch a flower, put it in this on the frog. The metal frog is basically a spiky little vase thing. So you just push it in, and then you can move it around and then create what are the distance that you want to create between the subject and the background. And then a couple of other things. I also have Plamp. So if you look up Plamp on Google, you will know what it is. It has like two clips from or holders. I don't know what you call them. I'm sorry. I'm losing my words right now. So one, it can actually hold the flower in place if there is like a lot of wind. So it will help you to actually hold the thing in place. Or if you're using a reflector or a diffuser, also you can, if it is small enough, the diffuser is like a 12-inch one that I carry. It will easily hold that and then cast some kind of a diffused look on the light on the flower. And then extension tubes. I do a lot of like extreme macro. So on my macro lens, I put the extension tubes. And it is a little difficult to do that in the field because it's very easy to control all the atmosphere in the house. But when you're in the field, you cannot control wind. So that's when it becomes a little difficult. But if you're in a nursery, this is very useful. If you have an extension tube, you can take it to the corner, put it on the tripod. It's easy to use. And I have clippers, like I said, I carry everywhere. And then macro adapters. In case if you don't have the extension tubes, you can go to Amazon, probably look for macro adapter for very cheap. We're talking about like $30-40. And the only thing that you need to know is if the macro adapter has to fit your lens. So whatever the size that you're buying, make sure that can be of the right size for your lens. Now, when you're photographing, you have to particularly pay attention to color, the shape, the form, lines, because not all flowers, even though they look the same, but when you start looking closely, they're slightly different in shape, slightly different in on the forms. So pay attention to that. By the way, I'm not saying anything new. Like, I'm just putting together material for you from my own experiences, but this is nothing new. We all saw flowers from like when we were very, very young. We start noticing them, right? So they're everywhere, weddings, funerals, church, like prayer times, everywhere. So there is something that draws us to flowers, right? I don't see anybody who don't like flowers. I've never met anybody so far. I met a couple of people who don't like the smell of the flowers. It's too strong or whatever, but not one soul that I met that I don't like flowers, nobody. So it's an easier subject to photograph, very easy to get the grasp of things, but very difficult once you reach a certain stage of photography. And you want to grow above that, you want to become like exceptional, you have to put in the time. You have to observe everything along with the light, the direction of the light, and the quality of light. So I will tell you in 1 minute. Let's see. Okay. So what is the best time to photograph flowers? When it is overcast. Outside, of course. When is the best time to photograph indoors? Anytime. Summer, winter, snow, rain, it doesn't matter. Anytime. Middle of the night too, because you're actually using supplemental lighting. So this is shot in the nursery. Now, again, the beauty of photographing anything in the nursery is because you can take the pot, move it around. You can use similar colors of the pots so that it will give you beautiful background. Now, in this case, everything is evenly lit because it's completely overcast. This is just a pot of flowers. Now, what I did here, and then this, now pretty much I see, it's becoming a thing. But when I started doing this, I don't even know how many people were doing at the time. What I did here is, I know that I cannot get everything sharp. If I'm using f2.8 or f3.5, then only very slight portion of even that flower in the middle is getting the focus. So what I had to do is shoot an f8, one image. I was on tripod. And then shoot at f4.5, another shot. So what happened when I did the 4.8 is this flower and most of the scene is in focus. But I don't want everything in focus. I just want this flower in focus, and rest of it is kind of blurry. So when I mix those two in Photoshop, layer them, and mask them, I got most of this flower in focus. So I call it aperture bracketing. Basically, you're using two different apertures, and then taking the best of the both. That whatever the flower that you want to focus on, you're going to mask that in to the blurry picture. So this is, I took that to the extreme here. I did the f8, and in this case, I actually did out of focus the entire image. So one image out of focus completely, and one image in f8, and then I mix them together in Photoshop. So there are, in Photoshop, everything can be done 5 different ways, 10 different ways. And also, in photography itself, there are so many things that you can do. You don't have to use Photoshop, but it helps if you know at least a little bit how to do. And there are other plugins that you can use to do this kind of work. One is Topaz Labs. They have something called texture effects within the Topaz Labs that you can look it up. And using that, you can pretty much achieve, but you cannot use 2 different pictures, but there is a way to do it. Again, it's not easy. You just have to keep, if you know what you want to do, it is easy to look that up, even if you don't know how to do it. So basically, that means you at least have to have a vision before you start doing it. You don't need to know the technical part of it, but you need to know what you want the outcome to be. Then you can start asking questions. We have wonderful Google that we can ask questions, right? Now, this is also overcast. So again, look at the bokeh in the background, how beautiful it is, right? Because there is a lot of distance between this flower and the background, I was able to shoot at f7.1 and got away no problem. We have, in New Jersey, we have a very, very good iris gardens with many varieties there. Every year, I have like May 3rd week. I know for sure May 3rd week is the week that I can go there, and then I have flowers no matter what. I've been going there for 12 years now, 11 years now. So Presby Iris Gardens, if you are out in New Jersey, please look it up. If you have any recommendations for local areas, please let me know, because sometimes I'm here, I could go. I can use some tips. Again, as you see how everything is evenly lit, this is the beauty of overcast lighting. You don't have to worry about harsh shadows, less contrasty. Now, my advice to anybody who is shooting flowers is do not pump up that contrast slider. Do not. It works for landscapes, it works for architectural images, but not for flowers. Flowers, you need to treat them like melody or like you're writing a poem that touches somebody's heart, you have to treat it as like a wisp of wind passing by, like very delicately, like a baby, right? So remember all that when you're processing that, okay, I want this to be less contrasty, not in your face, pop the colors, make it oversaturated. You can do that too if that's what you please to do, but there is a certain essence that you want to portray of a flower because they're such delicate beings. To bring that out, you want to work with less clarity and less contrast, and you want to have a more delicate touch to it, feel to it. So this is another one during the overcast day that I've shot. The beauty of this is I almost threw away this image because the red channel was completely blown out. So this was like a couple of years into I started photographing, and I would usually stay away from purples and reds because they're very difficult to photograph. And whenever I did, I couldn't use them. So one, I was watching, I don't remember if it's Lindsay Adler or somebody, who was talking about how to photograph a red dress. And then she said that every time she photographs that, and then that blows out, the red channel blows out, and then what she does is goes into the HSL slider and brings down on the intensity of the red. So she changes the saturation, desaturates just the red, then the clarity starts popping up a little bit. So that's it. I was able to save so many images with that one tip. So I'm very happy to pass that on to you. If you have the similar experience like me and you don't like to photograph red flowers, try that and you probably will start liking it again. Now, that's all for less contrasty stuff, right? I did tell you guys to stay away from contrast, but if you do like contrast, or every now and then you're in your mind like, okay, today, for some reason, I want some contrasty images. Then look for backlighting and side lighting. Then you can really do some wonders. This actually is done in the field, if you believe it or not. I always carry a black cloth with me, a black velvet, like a little piece, it's not big. And when my son, who was at the time only like 12 or 13, he used to accompany me everywhere I go. So all I had to do is buy him ice cream so he can hold the black cloth for me. So then eventually he moved into like, okay, sushi and ice cream. And then finally he told me that it's not worth it for him to come with me because now he's 17. So now he's 20, he's not going to go anywhere with me. So, but I made so many images with his help because when you have somebody to help you hold because you only have two hands. Somebody has to hold a reflector for you or a diffuser for you or a black cloth for you and you're in the field. Best thing is to, get your kids, at least they do that much for you, right? After we raise them so, But that doesn't work out all the time, then definitely go in groups of a couple of friends, photographers together, or at least have a husband for that reason or a wife. Just for that reason, if not for anything else. Anyway, this one, I sold quite a few copies of it. I gave away gifts to friends. I printed on metal. It glows. It like really, really glows. So moral of the story, when you're looking for backlighting, especially now is the time between around like 3:30, 4 o'clock when the sun starts coming down on the horizon. And that's when it has to be a little bit low in the horizon. And always pay attention to see if the flower is glowing. The flower is glowing, get your black cloth and stay there. Would it work without the black cloth? Yes, it would, but it is a little hard because the light is also falling on the background, so you're not able to isolate it, then the effect is lost a little bit. So in this case, I was walking one day, this is in summertime, almost like 6:30 or so, and it's still kind of bright. And then I saw this Queen Anne's lace, it's glowing. So I took the shot, I brought it home. I still think that at the time, I thought that the background is still overpowering. So in Lightroom, I took the brush, adjustment brush, and then I kind of made the background. It is not even a perfect selection or anything. I just, now you can select the background in Lightroom. Few years ago, that was not possible. So I just took the brush and then reduced the clarity, reduced the contrast, reduced the exposure, and then just brushed it out. So now the flower is standing out, the background is kind of muted, and there is not much light on the background, so it really stands out. So always look for the backlighting, and if it doesn't show up very well in the back of the camera, do not delete your picture because there are ways to rescue it. If you see the original of this one, everything was bright. Background was bright and the flower was bright. Also, when you're doing the backlighting, remember to underexpose just slightly, like one third of a stop to 2/3 of a stop, because basically you're trying to capture the light rather than the flower itself. The effect of the light on the flower, that's what you're trying to portray. This is another composition. Now everybody is doing it, but it's called champagne glass composition. Tulips are the best subjects for this because of their shape. So again, this is done around like in the middle of the day. So when people say that, okay, middle of the day is not good for photography, I learned two things. One, how to photograph flowers in the middle of the day. Two, how to do long exposures in the middle of the day. Because somebody said no, then I have to see why. Why can't I not do it? So I explored it. This is one of those New Jersey Turnpike pictures. I stopped, because I saw everything is glowing, then I stopped, I had to take my shot. This, I used a 70 to 200 lens, so I was not like very close to the flower. So this definitely props to my son because he was the one who's holding the cloth. We went to a sunflower farm and I saw this light like really highlighting the petals. So I had to get in, I had to. Okay, this really the story when my son said that I'm not worth it anymore because, so we were, lotuses grow in the pond. And then I found one lotus that is only like about a foot away from the pond, or the water's edge. So I told him to hold the black cloth, okay? Now I was with the 70 to 200 lens, so I was a little bit away. And then I kept telling him to move 1 more inch, move 1 more inch, move 1 more inch. And then I also have trouble right and left. So I would tell him to go to the right. And then when he gets like, what right? Okay, your other right. Okay, so then finally after this picture was done, he told me that, please, it's not worth the sushi or the ice cream or the money or nothing, I'm sorry. So anyway, see how you can really isolate. If you have a black background during the daytime, with so much contrast, you can still take good shots. Again, this is one of my best-selling images. So what I did in this case is I tried to mute the leaf so that it is not competing with my subject. That you have to do in post-processing because in one shot, if you're aiming for just the lotus, it would not have been possible. Both of them are equally lit, right? You cannot control that in the field. So you have to do the control in the Lightroom or Photoshop. Just hold on. Now this is Kenilworth Aquatic Gardens. Every year, like a pilgrimage, I do this. I love Kenilworth. I hope you guys went there at least once. And if you have not, you definitely should because you're so close. I mean, it's what a sight, right? So many lotuses. By the way, so my name is Padma, which means a lotus in Sanskrit. So I have an affinity towards this flower. But then when I see magnolias, I also feel affinity. I see tulips, and I like every flower. I treat them equally. All right. So every flower photographer or portrait photographer, they know what is bokeh, right? I don't have to really say, but we all strive for it. And there are different kinds of bokeh, right? We have those like nice soap bubble bokeh, and you have like creamy bokeh, and then also it depends on how you're feeling one day. Like I used to love creamy bokeh. I don't like it anymore. I like those little bubbles in the back, so little specular highlights. So now, how do you get the bokeh? Bokeh generally depends on the lens that you're using, the aperture that you're using, the distance between the camera and the subject, and the distance between the subject and the background. And the light, whether the light is falling on the background too, because if it is just highlighting the subject and there is no light on the background, you don't see much bokeh at all. And also the shape of these bubbles or specular highlights depends on the lens construction. So if you have like a 7-blade construction in the lens or 5-blade, the shape of it varies a little bit. Now you don't need to get that technical. So if you just want to just go and have fun, yes, please go ahead, because I use my kit lens, just regular 24-105 lens. I still got some bokeh. Just remember to use at least a 5 points, no more than 5.6. So if you use like f8, the bokeh is lost. Now that is done during almost like it's a sunset time. I was ready to pick up my son from like swim lesson, and I see this. I didn't even go inside. I just went back home, got the camera, came back, took the shot, because I knew exactly, because what they were doing at the time was watering the plants. So I knew that if the light falls on the water drops, it creates nice highlights in the background. So that's why I had to run. So now, they don't have to water. Remember, if you're carrying a spray bottle, you can do the watering yourself. Just spray a little bit, or even just regular water bottle. You don't need to have the spray bottle either. Just sprinkle some water in the light. Make sure that the background is in the light. And then they almost always glow. And then you can get this kind of shot. And this was done at a nursery. Again, water time. They have like watering times. Then if you know their schedule, then you can go and try to get the bokeh shots there. And this one actually, okay, so Brian Peterson, how many people know Brian Peterson, right? He is an amazing photographer, and he has this whole series called You Keep Shooting. If you don't know that series on YouTube, just look it up. He used to do that. I don't think he does it anymore. So in one of those videos, he talked about making your own rain. So this is one of those. Like, I turned on the sprinkler, and it is like broad daylight. Turn on the sprinkler, and then everything was kind of wet and nice. And all I had to do is get the macro lens, be on my belly at the eye level to the, what is it, grape hyacinth. So because I'm using the macro lens, so everything is kind of shallow anyway. I don't have a lot of depth of field. I think this is f3.5. And then you see this beautiful, very nice bokeh here. So these are all water drops. They just have the light glowing, and then that's why you see that. So very simple thing to do, and they're coming up everywhere probably in about a month. Right now, you can do the same thing with the crocuses. I think crocuses are blooming everywhere, at least I saw a few. Now there is this kind of crazy bokeh. I call it like crazy bokeh because look at all this. It's like a baby was playing with some kind of crazy glue or something, right? So this is done with the old lenses. One of them, it's called Meyer Optic. I bought one for like $80 on, it's a German lens, Meyer Optic. Don't buy the new ones, which are like $1,400, $1,500. No, there is no need for it. So those are the ones, like it has 1.6 aperture, and I use that one to create this. And so you have to do about 200-300 pictures because the focus is not sharp on those images, because they work on I think they concentrate on the background more. So you really have to work hard to get at least a little tiny point in focus. So more of the bokeh stuff. And this is actually done at a nursery. Again, what happens when you go to a nursery is because you have the same kind of flowers, like 20, 30 of them, right, lined up. So you go for that mono theme where you have the background is also the same color and the subject is also the same color. You can really come up with some creative compositions. This is one of those Helios lenses. Again, look at the craziness that's going on in the background. So that shows like an impressionistic kind of look. And not everybody likes it. Again, if you're shooting for yourself, it really makes you happy because every time you look at it, and every image is usually like a slightly different from the next one. So now, you don't even have to go to like, I don't know, Yellowstone or someplace to actually do these kind of things, right? Learning to see. Like little things like crocuses the grape hyacinth, or anything. So that is important to practice that skill at home. There are two people actually who wrote books on, just the title is Learning to See. One is Brian Peterson. He got 2 editions of it. And there is another guy, Michael Fry or Michael Freeman. I don't remember, one of those two. I have both books. And it really teaches you like some exercises as to how you can motivate yourself, mostly sitting at home. Again, you don't have to travel like distances to look for beautiful places. You can create the beauty with whatever the things that are surrounding you. So now, for this exercise, what I do generally when I am teaching hands-on courses in flower photography is usually my very first assignment would be that I'm very specific about take 1 rose. The only choice they have is the color, but it has to be a rose because I want everybody to be thinking on the same plane in the class. I tell them that I need 10 variations of the rose, and then 5 variations of one of those 10, 5 variations of the post-processing. So there are like 3-4 people, the very first time I gave the exercise, they quit outright. Like, you said it only takes 1 hour a week, so we joined the class. Like it took 4 hours, sorry, we don't have that kind of time. So anyway, people who stuck with it really came up with some very, very nice images. So the community college that I was teaching, they kept calling me every year, at least like, so it's like an 8-week course that I would teach. So what it makes you see is, okay, first 3-4 shots are going to be easy, right? After that, you have to think about it. You really have to force to do that exercise, like 10 variations of 1 rose. What are you going to do? How are you going to do? Are you going to take the petals off, throw it on the ground and start taking pictures of that? One person actually put that in a coffee. The rose is actually in the coffee upside, like, face in the coffee. I don't know what he meant by that, what he wanted to convey, but that's something I would never do. So that's something I saw. I'm like, okay, that's not bad. And the one person put that on a bed of like the river stones in the garden that you have. So he put the flower in there, and then so everything is white, and then he put the red rose in there. So it kind of nice standing out. So also like organic matter versus inorganic matter. So again, it forces you to think outside the box. Now, if you do that exercise a couple of times, then even if you don't have to do the exercise anymore, you will still start thinking in the path. So your mind starts looking into different angles. So possible angles. Whenever you are in front of a flower, don't be in a hurry to go to the next flower. Just try to observe that. Give it enough time. Look side to side. Sometimes you might have to stand, sit, look from down to upwards or whatever, and look for any curves that are standing out. There is stamen that you can look it up, like especially the lilies, usually the oriental lilies, they have like beautiful, nice little pods that are sticking out. And then there are some flowers that have like beautiful textures in them. And then if not anything, suppose the flowers are not holding your interest, look for the leaves and then, patterns and such. So again, you have to really intentionally develop the habit, because people like me, I'm a technical person. And when I bought my camera, the whole manual, I read it in like 3 days, about 3 to 4 times. I knew how to operate the camera, no problem. I can change the aperture, I can go into manual mode. But the problem was, okay, but when do I change the aperture? So learning when to apply. It's like, I know how to operate a chainsaw and a screwdriver, but when do I bring on the screwdriver versus when do I apply the chainsaw and what occasion, right? So similar situation. So there is technical aspect and there is creative aspect. Some people are creative, born creative, they can see things differently. Some people have to cultivate the habit. I'm one of those people who have to really work hard at cultivating the creative part of it. So, and the very first time I went to Longwood Gardens, that was 2012, I came away with almost 600 pictures of 600 different flowers and such. Their greenhouse is full of, really different images. This is spring of 2012. I don't know how many of you went in spring of 2012 or, But I'll tell you one thing, Himalayan poppies, they have tulips. Well, tulips were not there at the time. Daffodils, they have snowdrops, all kinds of stuff. Right? I come back and then I was going through like, this is too much, like too overwhelming. So show it to a friend who was already a full-time photographer. He told me that next time when you go for only 20 pictures. Do not take any shots at all until you sit down. You literally sit your butt down in the greenhouse and then observe. And then when you're sure, take the shot. Just do this exercise a couple of times, and then you will see how you will start change your attitude, right? So that means I literally started spending like 5-6 minutes before I click the camera. Remember, I can only take one shot of the flower, and that shot has to be the sure shot. That means I cannot waste it anymore. So, of course, I cheated by bringing out my cell phone because he doesn't know I'm doing cell phone shots. Anyway, so that kind of deliberately slowing down, thinking before I click the shutter button, and observing what is the best angle, that actually taught me so much. That's what I'm trying to tell you guys as well. Before you click the shutter button, see what you're trying to convey, what are you trying to portray, right? And also, we want to include whatever that we see into one frame. There is no need for it. Simplify, declutter, okay, and make sure that whatever that you were trying to show, what is your main subject, concentrate on that and make sure that that stands out. If you have like 2, 3, 4 competing elements, and then what are you trying to really show the audience? Where do you want the audience to actually concentrate? Don't confuse. Just minimalistic approach is the best way to start, and I think best way to end as well. Okay, so especially when you're doing flowers, it would definitely help if you don't include everything that you see in the frame. Sometimes the entire flower doesn't need to be shown either, just partial, depending on how you compose it. And fill the frame. Border patrol is not my term, somebody else used this. So border patrol is basically look all through your frame, edges of your frame, and see if you're cutting off anything unintentionally, and make sure. And again, shoot many variations, so that many variations, again, with intent, not willy-nilly, but with intent. Now, when you're at the nursery especially, it is very easy that, there are some holes, that there is like soil everywhere and such. So they create like kind of black holes. So keep an eye out for them. And also keep an eye out for hot spots in the backgrounds, because even one drop of water that you don't want to showcase and that shines too much, that can take over your subject. So watch out for hot spots and black holes. Now, more than anything else, take the time. If you can enjoy photographing a flower, one flower for 2 hours, that means you arrived, okay? So, all right, so what are the basics of photography? Again, I'm not going to go through really into each and every concept of it, but remember when you're doing flowers, shallow depth of field is important. You want to have a blurry background, and you want your subject to stand out, and if you want to tame the light, the best way is to carry, if you go to Amazon, by the way, look for a 12-inch, and when you fold it literally is 3.5 inches or 4 inches discs that you can actually attach to your backpack. So use those to create beautiful flower portraits. So let me see what I'm going to show you. Give me 1 minute. All right. So that's my advice, but I'm going to show you some experiments that I do, okay? These are creative, whatever. Brian Peterson was my inspiration for these kind of images. Okay, 1, when you go to nurseries and when watering time, you see any droplets, that's the time that you just want to hang around and isolate the water droplets and look for the reflections in them. So this is not something that I actually created a water drop by myself, but I saw one and I spent, until the water dropped, I was there for like 5-7 minutes. Don't touch it, so it will still stay there. Couple more, so whenever you're walking around, please, watch out for the water drops, right? But then, do you see the difference here? The water drops here, they're not uniform. right? Because they are like kind of natural. I don't know if it was rain or watering, watering by the people there. I'm not sure. But in this case, the water drops look a lot more uniform. That's because I sprayed it. I sprayed it, and then you see, if you don't know before, now you will know. Like you'll start paying attention to, did she spray the water or it's a rainwater? Rainwater will not have uniform water drops. So then I went nuts. Even at home, I would bring roses and then just, play with different roses, different times. So I got this as flowers for New Year's Eve. Then I said, okay, what am I going to do with them? They're going to be gone a couple days later, so I might as well use them to make pictures, right? So I was walking by in the nursery one day. This is a camellia with one water drop. I did not put it there, right? I saw this. I'm like, oh my God, is it crying? Okay, so I had to take the shot. And, I put it in a few competitions or whatever, and I sold a few prints, and yeah, it did very well. So once I found that I can do this, then I went again nuts with different colors of, roses and everything. More, right? So this one, I went to Oregon in May. If you really are into garden photography, Oregon in May is like heaven. April and May, both months. So Salem, Oregon is the nursery capital of USA. So they have hosta nurseries. They only do hostas. There are iris nurseries, only do irises, nothing else. So I came to iris farm where we were on the road. Almost all this way, my eyes can see, and this way, only irises, I didn't see anything else. It's crazy. And I don't do fields of flowers. I generally isolate flowers. So I'm like, what do I shoot? What do I shoot? Like, it's too much. So it's like a visual overload for you. This is the hosta gardens. We were there 5:30 in the morning, and so there is a lot of dew on the leaves, and the air was like no air, standstill. It was beautiful, and the sun came up, the water's gone. So, but I had to spend about almost like a half an hour. I was able to photograph, and look at how beautiful the reflections are here. This is a project I've done at home. Again, Brian Peterson has a photography school. In that, at that time, they were offering a class on water drop photography. So I took that, obviously. And then this is very easy, to the point where after I've done like 4 or 5 of them, like, it's too easy, I'm not doing that, because there is no thrill in doing something that's too easy. Right? So basically, I loaded up. This is a camellia photographed by me. And this is done in like dead winter. This is a winter jasmine vine that is growing outside of in the yard. So I just cut a little branch and brought it in. And and this was actually held horizontally. And the tablet was right behind it with the photo loaded. The funny story is, for this purpose, I ordered some needles from Amazon. So needles come, and my kids want to know, what the hell am I doing with those needles? I'm like, okay, I'm not doing anything. I'm not doing no drugs. It's okay. So anyway, I still have those needles till today, because I don't use them much. So mix a few drops of glycerin in a little bowl of water, and then using those needles, slowly place them on the branch. Again, the branch was not diagonal, it was horizontal. So you try to use the needle to put that in. Then what happens is, because of the glycerin, the water holds. Don't use a pure glycerin, but just mix it up with water. Anyway, so then I just rotated it in Photoshop to get to this. That's one more. Like I said, after you do a few, I'm like, it's too easy, like cheating, right? So again, I don't mind shooting indoors. I don't mind bringing flowers indoors. The first time when I bought flowers indoors, I thought that, okay, I have 3 days sitting at home doing nothing. So I spent like $80, $90 on the flowers, brought them home. I couldn't finish them in 3 days. I was shooting like 5, 6, 7 hours a day, and it was like too much. It was crazy. Even now, I teach lightbox photography. Actually, I'm teaching on May 18th at the Bowie Craft and Camera Club. So whenever I do that, like I buy a lot of flowers, they come home with me, and then I have next couple of days just photographing. I really, really like to photograph flowers indoors because there is no wind that you need to worry about. Plus, you can actually bring up any background on your computer screen, use that as your background. You don't even need to, previously I used to carry backgrounds with me to the gardens and everything. Now all I have to do is bring the flowers home, then I can literally use any of my own backgrounds or just Google and then bring up anything. In my opinion, I don't feel that it is cheating because you're still using a camera to capture it. It is not like you're buying textures and then imposing them in Photoshop because most of the competitions, they don't allow that stuff. But if you shot them, then you can claim them as kind of yours. Plus, you are not using that as main subject, you're using them as backgrounds. So I think it's allowed. Anyway, so again, if the weather doesn't cooperate or you don't feel like going anywhere, especially during coronavirus time or something, right? This is the best way to do it. Go pick up some flowers. Trader Joe's is the best place to pick up cheap flowers, I'm telling you, okay? Now use a black background or even a light box, just white background, whatever that, makes you happy. First start there with the plain backgrounds. Then slowly graduate to either using a tablet or a TV screen or computer screen, anything, right? Okay, and then, oh, by the way, you can use, if you're like Indian friends, ask them if they have any, like, we call them dupattas, scarves. Okay, we all have about 30, 40 lying at home. So borrow them, bring them with, we have like nice designs and everything. The only thing you need to remember is when you are holding a flower in front of any kind of these busy backgrounds, just make sure that they have a lot of space between so you can create the shallow depth of field. So the background is completely blurry, still comes up, but not with any detail. So that's the best way to do. Now, for the lighting, you can use, if you're shooting during, say, so if you have a south-facing window, for example, then best time to shoot is between like 3 and 5 or 6, whatever. Just use something to diffuse the light, that's all. But suppose you're shooting at night, and sometimes I do that, then I have like very cheapo kind of video lights that I use, continuous lights, because I don't like to use strobes and flashes or anything. So this is the best way. And also, the other way that I set up my lights, if I'm doing at night, is I actually cancel the lights, like they both are facing each other so that I don't have like harsh shadows. So you just have to be careful about not creating too many shadows while you're using artificial lights. So if you look at this one, you see the scarf that I have? There is not even a lot of distance between the background. Why? Because I was using Lens Baby. So Lens Baby creates a lot of blur already. It only has like a little tiny prick of a depth of field in there. That's the reason why I got away with not even having a lot of distance between the scarf and the... Okay, so these are the kind of experiments that I like to do at home. And sometimes I throw away through some Christmas garlands in the background so that I have like nice, like good bokeh. Anyway, so as I told you, lightbox shooting, I do a lot of it. White on white is my favorite. These do not make good prints. I tried to print. They do not. But they make like great wallpapers and such. So I sold quite a few on the stock websites and such because this is more like ethereal. It doesn't make for like if you want like a contrasty print to hang on the wall, it's not a good subject for it. But again, so the light box is basically, let me see if I have any example of the light box. No. So light box is basically not the light box that you're thinking about like a light tent. This is more like X-ray box, old X-ray boxes. So my fiance actually builds them, but you can go and buy a light pad on Amazon for like $100, $120. And basically I place the flower, I put the light box on the floor, and then I put the flower on top of the light box and I shoot from the top. That's one way to do it. The other way is maybe you can put it vertically against a wall and then put the flower in a vase. But basically the intent of lightbox photography is you know how the flowers have like these beautiful thin petals that transmit light. So to bring out the translucency of the petals is, so basically it's backlighting, but artificial backlighting that you're trying to create. And this is done actually in Washington, D.C. I have a friend who's a lawyer. So I was on a hunt for magnolias with my clippers and Padma, are you trying to make me a criminal? I work for D.C. DC Township. They're going to arrest me. I won't find a job again. I'm like, really? If you clip flowers, they're going to arrest you and you won't find employment. Really? Are you that scared? She says, yes, I'm very scared. I said, okay, you sit down. I'm going to go grab some flowers. So I go clip some flowers, not in anybody's house. They're on the roadside. Bring them home. So we had a blast that day. So we shot the photos and done, right? After that, then we see, because we are shooting the same exact composition, we have the same exact pictures. Then how can I stand out from her? So then I took this image into, there is a software called Exposure software, and it's a Photoshop plugin. And they have a filter called bokeh in there. I am a big proponent of that. I really, really like the plugin. So I used to create this multiple exposure effect, and I masked this sharp center back into it after I applied the bokeh preset. Now, so this kind of image can be done by crawling around the light box while the light box is on the floor. So I am like with my camera, literally crawling on my belly. So again, the idea is to capture the glow that's coming because of the backlight, and then use the really shallow depth of field. So I shot this with the lens baby. Now there is a difference between backlighting and high key, right? Backlighting or light box photography, the translucency, right? So the high key is basically you're using a white background and you're just overexposing it. That's it. There is no light transmitting, there is no glowing. So if that is what you want to do, then that's good. For me, I want to have this glow. Look at how the light is coming through here, the light is coming through here. So pay attention, know the difference, and then whatever you do, do it with the purpose. The peonies, I love peonies, and these are my own peonies from my own garden. And so basically, I open them up, and you have to be very gentle. And I cut the flowers from the stems. I lay down the stems first, the bare stems with the leaves, and then I put the flowers on top. Do you think the flowers are going to face you? Otherwise, naturally, they're just like drooping this way or that way. So that's the way to place it. So the problem with light box photography is, once you photograph the flowers, they're not usable anymore because you're picking them, like pinching them, and then all kinds of manhandling. So usually they don't last very long. So when you're absolutely done with the flowers, that's when you want to photograph them on the light box. So tulips, same technique, pinch the flowers, slightly open them, arrange them on the light box. And callas. When I went to California, I see callas on Oregon. Callas are growing on the roadside like crazy, and then nobody cares. Here, I spend like $6, $7 for one calla to go to the florist. I'm like, so when I went to Oregon, I went nuts for the first day. I'm like, oh my God, there is a calla, there is a calla. And then my friend from Oregon, like, okay, so I'm like, you don't understand. We don't get them in New Jersey. So yeah, so they make beautiful subjects for light box photography as well. Tulips, again, look at how the light is coming through the leaves and the petals and everything. So again, this is my favorite way to photograph flowers on the light box. I didn't even ask if there are any questions at all on Facebook.
I would have interrupted if
okay.
there was.
All right. And I didn't ask anybody if you guys have any questions either. So am I too good or what? You understood everything I said, huh? I'm sorry. Yes.
For other observation, when I do outside photography, when I do outside photography on flowers, I have this old pretzel jar. It's very big and it's clear. I take the top and bottom off and I can put it around the flower, which allows the light to come in, but it shields it from the wind.
Yes, you can use that, but the problem, okay, so the question is here, how, to avoid the wind, he has like a glass jar kind of thing that doesn't have a top or a bottom, so put it on. But the problem is, you can do that if you're on a garden that is either yours or a neighbor's or someplace where you can actually touch the flowers. But if you go to botanical gardens and try that, and you'll never go to the botanical gardens again. Yeah. So that's the problem, yes. And Mike Moats, by the way, I don't know how many of you know Mike Moats. He has somewhere a tutorial on how to, he calls it a wind box. You can create a wind box. So he got like 6 panels or something, and that's foldable. So he uses that to shield the flowers. Again, it works in the field where it's like a wildflower garden or wherever that would work, but not even at nursery. They don't like if you touch the flowers. With experience, I'm telling you. So you touch them, you buy them. So generally.
The other thing I've done recently is stop motion, where you take a flower that's about to bloom and you photograph it every minute.
Yep. Yeah.
That can be very entertaining.
Oh, it can be. It can be very entertaining for the people who see that rather than the first person who photographs it. Just saying. Because you can accumulate almost like 1,000 photos or something? Yep, yeah. And then putting them together into it can be. Yes.
On your light box, have you ever tried putting a little thin, on your light box, have you ever tried putting a little thin piece of colored paper over it, and that's something that's transparent in order to get a different color, to get it?
I tried the gels. White. Yeah, I tried the gel papers. I didn't like the look.
They don't work?
No, they work. They work. It's just that I like the purity of the white color, and that's yeah. It does work. Yeah. Yes.
I have to build a light box. Can you please describe what that is?
Would you mind if I send you a link on YouTube? That's where I learned. By the way, I cannot build anything, nothing. I cannot put nail in the wall. So that's why I have a fiance, to do this kind of stuff. Otherwise, I don't need him. So he's an electrical engineer. He saw the tutorial. He improved the design a little bit. And then he built me about 3 or 4 light boxes so I can travel with them for the workshops or whatever. But that link, in my opinion, is still good. If you're handy, definitely it's helpful. So I'll send it to Christine, and then she can pass it on. Yeah? Yeah.
Harold Davis has a whole bunch of good videos that goes on our light bulb photography. Harold Davis.
Who?
Harold Davis.
Oh, yeah. I just said, yeah. That's where I got inspiration from.
Oh, okay.
That's why I want to be this number 2 photographer in the country, not number 1. Yes.
Amazon has a number of light boxes, or tracing boxes, they call it, that are really cheap and LED, and I don't know if they're light enough for some of this, but I've used that and I've had some pretty good success with them.
So yes, I have experience with them. That's I got a few, at least a couple that died on me. So I would recommend one brand called Kaiser, which I've been using it because I need also, whatever the custom boxes that I have, they're 2 feet by 3 feet. Hard to carry if I'm flying. So I got the brand Kaiser. Also works without the power cord. It has an internal battery. So now, the other boxes that I got, the cheaper ones, about $90 or so, the problem with them is because the usage that I do quite a bit of usage, so they died on me after a year or so. One issue. Second issue, if you're using tripod, the shutter speed doesn't matter, so they work well. It's no problem. Because even if the light is, it's not that bright, but then you can compensate in your shutter speed and you're okay. But if you're trying to handhold the camera, and that's when the problem comes. So it runs almost up 2-3 seconds. You cannot handhold anymore. So those are the 2 issues, so you have to be careful about. But they do function well. And my another problem is I sometimes cut dogwood blossoms, magnolia branches. I bring them, I make these huge arrangements. And for that, I need like a big light box. So that's the reason why I went for the 2 feet by 3 feet. So it's perfect. I can do a lot of different things. So, and plus if you build it once, and that's it. Like you don't have to worry about it, So as you see, I have like many more. And this is what I'm talking about. Like I can really go to town with the arrangements. So, and then when I'm done with photographing all of them, and then I spend a lot of time just to arrange them, and I call them flower carpets. Again, they do very well on stock photography websites. And so when I give workshops, I tell people, okay, can you sit down on the floor? And then there are usually at least a couple of volunteers that they can sit down. And I say, okay, start pinching these hydrangeas. Try doing that. It is very therapeutic. Like pinch one head at a time and then arrange them on the light box, and really makes good shots. Now, this kind of shots, you need the big light box. Like if you have those many peonies, sometimes even that you run out of space. So we also have a peony garden in New Jersey called Peony Envy. And it's just awesome place to be. Even if you're not a photographer, just walk around, it's just beautiful. And then she sells cut peonies that you can bring them home, and that's what I did. We also have a tulip gardens. Yes?
When you shoot on your light box, are you shooting at a real high aperture, or are you focus stacking them?
So when, no focus stacking.
Okay.
I don't believe in focus stacking only because I believe in focus stacking in architectural and landscape, but not for flowers, only because I think Photoshop or even Helicon, I have both. Well, Helicon, I got that, but they don't do very well when you're shooting with even f8, like say 14, 15 images or 20 images you combine, you still see a lot of artifacts in them. I tried shooting with 2.8 and then create like 40, 50 images and then try to combine them. They don't do very well for some reason. So I don't do that. But in this case, because your light box is on the floor and your flowers are arranged, they're all in the same plane. So if you shoot with f8, you're done. Like you have back-to-back beautiful depth of field, no problem. But if I'm doing single flower, and then if my objective is to create a fine art kind of image, for example, this image, the one that I showed, this kind of image, that is shallow depth of field is my objective. So I go for like f2.8 or even less. If you're using lens babies, you can go with 1.6 or 1.8 or something, yeah. All right, okay, so again, more, in this case, I only had half these flowers, so I created 2 images and then I put them together in Photoshop. So you can do a lot of different things. And so while lightbox images are pretty decent, but when you print them, they don't do very well. So next thing, if you really want to either give them as gifts or, or anything, or if you want to like really bring out the drama in the pictures, black background is the best. And then turn them into black and white, then even better. So black background and black and white, and really, really stands out. Now, if you have anybody who is into like, I have, at least like 2 friends who has their entire house black and white. I cannot live like that. I want color. I personally want a lot of color. I'm from India. You cannot blame me. Okay, we put up like crazy colors, but like, that one person is my own brother's wife. So she did the entire decor in black and white. So I gave her a couple of these prints, and they're happily hanging there. So again, dahlias really make great black and whites because of the structure that they have. So try them on a black and white, and you can see if I'm wrong. Okay, Callas, again, this is shot at home, and this is done at a Smithsonian Garden. In the Magnolia, they have like a beautiful Magnolia garden there in Smithsonian Place, yeah. So if you see the original of this, like you don't, like, what is it, right? So I was in Asheville, I was teaching one of the flower photography conferences I was doing. And then I was walking by, I see the backlighting. So anytime I see backlit flowers, I have to stop and then take the shots. Even if they're like not great, because I know what I can do in Photoshop because I've been doing it for some time. So I was taking the shots and Al was like, what are you doing? And that's another habit I have is like wherever I go, I don't care. I just sit my butt down. I don't care if my pants are dirty or anything. Who cares, right? I'm a photographer. Everybody knows. So I sit down and whatever. So I was taking the shots. He would come like, what are you doing? Oh, these pictures are not good. I said like, whatever. I go to the hotel room that night. I came up with this picture, totally done in Lightroom. First turned it into black and white. And then I took the brush, painstakingly cleaned up the entire background, and with the black color, I just painted everything. And again, like I said, totally done in Lightroom. Because of the backlighting, it really stands out. And that's why I said black background. If you don't have the black background, then manufacture the background in the post-processing, and black and white with backlit, perfect combination. Okay, so this is another one. So if you can remind me, I'm going to send you the link for this one too. So when I came across this, there was an architectural photographer who came up with this idea of solarization for one of the mosques for from Abu Dhabi. So then I said, I can do this for my flowers. So I did a webinar for Nick, along with a couple of other photographers, and I explained the technique there. It's on YouTube for free to watch. But this is the regular black and white. A light box photography, magnolias on a light box, regular black and white. Using that technique, I was able to create this. Now try printing this, and you see a huge difference. So I feel like this is like a liquid mercury kind of look. I really, really like it. And it's very, very easy to do. There is not much masking or anything. This is like invert, turn black and white, go into Nick filters, and then apply solarization filter. Literally 3 to 4 steps, that's it. Very, very simple. You just need to have those Nick filters, that's it. So again, I'll send the link. It's literally 8-minute tutorial that you can, well, the tutorial is big, but that portion is only 8 minutes. So now you see where my time goes, right? So this is a chrysanthemum. I photographed it. It's on a whole bunch of them. And then I picked it apart. I put it together. You know how much time it takes? Yeah. So that's the kind of, time that I put in. So anyway, again, it does very, very well in, sales and such. This is a carnation, again, using the same solarization technique, shot in a light box. Actually, this is shot in the field. I didn't even use black background. So first thing, I took the shot, brought it into Lightroom, turned the background black using the brush, and then did the solarization technique. This is roadside magnolias, morning glories. Pick them up. So now I know the routine. So first I lay down the light box, get the camera ready, get the settings ready. Everything is ready. Then take wet paper napkins and a plastic bag, run to the roadside, bring them home, because the right after you cut them, the life is literally 10 to 15 minutes, no more. So, and then lay them out, take your shots, whatever, and they're gone. So then turn them into black and white. Magnolias, they're everywhere right now. Please go and then do this, like on a light box. Cherry blossoms also everywhere. So what I did here is I cut out a cardboard, hollowed out, meaning the template is outside. So I can put it on the light box, okay, and then arrange the flowers inside the template, and then pick the cardboard out. So now you have perfectly shaped heart, and then did that. So more color and black background. I don't know how much time we have. I can go on. I'm seriously, this is only half my presentation. I have another presentation called Advanced Flowers. So I'm not going to bother you with it, but I don't know what time is it.
It is about 1:15.
8.
About 20 after 8.
Okay, so I can go for another 10 minutes or so. Okay, at least. All right. So, yes.
On your post-process, on your post-processing, do you find that you're working on something for a while and then you realized, you went the wrong direction with it? And then do you start over or do you go back? And how do you, that doesn't happen to you?
Oh, of course it happens to me, but not in flowers though. Generally, flowers are easy to post-process for me. Most of my post-processing challenges happen in architectural photography, where I have to do like lots of stitching and panoramas and such. In this case, generally, what I do is I come up with like 3 to 4 variations of different looks. And then if you go back enough on my Facebook feed, I generally post like 3 or 4, and I say, which one do you like? Because I cannot decide which one that I like. And also the other thing that I do, if I start something and it is not really translating what I have in my mind, I kind of walk away from it for a day or two and then come back, and generally I have more clarity as to what I want. But flowers in general are easier for me because I do spend a lot of time in camera, like really a lot of time. The more I slow down, I realize my outcome is much better.
I see, like that particular image you have right there,
Uh-huh.
you finish it up and you say, oh, wow, I should have made the inside of that a little lighter. And, you say, well, how can I fix it? Do you ever get to a point where you just have to go down to halfway through your process?
So when you have 150,000 images in your Lightroom catalog, how many images like, good, this is it. I cannot do anything about it. Let me go shoot again. I've done that many times. Actually, not even bothered with the processing anymore because I cannot do it anymore. But in this case, though, my goal was to highlight, see how entwined the flowers are. I found those flowers like that in a sunflower form. So that's what I wanted to highlight. This, to me, if it is brighter, fine, it adds something to it, but it is not taking away, just not showing that many details, so that's why. But when in doubt, especially if I'm shooting indoors, 90% of the time, I do auto-bracketing. So I have 2 shots, so that if I have some area that is I don't have details, then the other image usually will have it, so I can superimpose it.
So then you put them together?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So another crazy things that I would do is, the photo frames. The back of the photo frame, I take the glass. I take away everything, and then the glass I spray paint it with different colors, and I have a few built up like that. So brown color, black color, all different colors. Put it back into the photo frame so that you don't accidentally cut yourself the edges. So now you have a stack of them, right? So I try to use them to create this kind of reflections and such. You can also use mylar, acrylic, that kind of stuff. But I like this technique better because then when I don't need it, then I can just hang them in the basement. So, yeah. Black velvet is the best way to create black backgrounds because the light does not reflect. If you use any other black color material, generally if the light falls on, it becomes kind of grayish. It is hard to fix it in post-processing. I mean, I still do it, but it's easier if you get it right in camera. So again, sometimes I bring pots of flowers home, and then I try to use the whole family of flowers. Roses, again, And this is the last flower that I photographed in my garden before I lost my house for good. And that's that. But again, I cut the magnolia, the branch, brought it into the house, put it on a metal frog, and put the black background in the back, and used a video light on one side and the other, natural light on the other side. So that's how I got this. Again, pots of flowers, and the moral of the story here is there's gives it really highlight the black background really highlights the colors. If you really want to go for the contrast, like yes, I gave you the advice of go for non-contrasty stuff. That's for more like fine art kind of thing. But if you also want to sell your pictures, then you want to have contrast and you want to have something relatable. So if you give a blurry image with a little bit of depth of field to a non-photographer friend of yours, they're going to look at you like, you don't know how to photograph? Like, how come everything is blurry? Because they don't understand the aspect that you're going for. They'll be very happy looking at pictures like this because they can relate to. And with their cell phone, they can probably take something similar to it. So I have more success selling these flowers images than my fine art. So then I made a distinction. Like if I want to shoot for myself, it's going to be the way nice and fine artsy. But if I want to sell something or give away gifts for Christmas or whatever, I'm going for these kind of images. So I was just hanging with a clothes hanger and then a black background in the back. And this is the wisteria from my garden. Then I did a few of the projects. Keep going? You're okay? Keep going? Okay. All right. So I said, okay, do it series. Basically, this came when I saw the interview with Tom Hanks and his wife sometime. This is about a few years ago. So they both are Rita Wilson, right? She's successful, but not as successful as Tom Hanks. But they survived somehow together for years and years. So what does that mean? That if you give a person enough space, but you still are in the background, you're giving a support, sometimes he can become her support or whatever, right? So I wanted to do something to whatever that feeling that I was getting. I'm not good with words, so how do I express that in my visually? So I started this series, and it went on for whatever the number of years. So if you see that, okay, you have the prominent flower in the front, and there is a similar flower in the background, just giving a support, but it's not asking for any attention, right? So it's not competing, it's just there. So that is the series that I've developed. It took me some time to put it together, but basically that is so pick a project that has some meaning to you. Then what happens is you're really your mind is on a track to finish the series. If it takes 3 months or 6 months or 1 year, it doesn't matter. But you're always thinking it's in the back of your mind. So that also fuels the creativity part of it. If you ever feel like you're in a rut, start up a personal project. And then that definitely brings you out of that rut. So more examples. So I was showing this to my kids. And so what do you call this, interracial marriage? So I'm a Hindu, and I married a Muslim. Back in the day, I ran away, eloped, or whatever. So then I tell them that, yeah, this represents my life, so. Yep. So, and then you can apply the same principle to groups of flowers if you want, groups of subjects. And then I have more experiments that I do. And when you're done with the light box, you're done with everything, and then your flowers are wilting, and then you got to do something about it, then you can do still life. So I got dry flowers, I got the fresh flowers, and I got the string of pearls. This is like a $2 or $3 thrift store find, the pearls. And then the vase is also like $4 or $5 at the thrift store. So I have a few vases that I use. So, yeah, again, it's just whatever that you think that you enjoy, do it. You don't need anybody's permission. You just need to learn the techniques to bring your vision into the frame, right? And then I do this. Okay, so I did the whole class on this. There is a website called Visual Wilderness. If you want to learn how to do these kind of things. This is all Photoshop actions. So I'm in IT, so I thought that I can write my own action. How difficult can it be? It is very difficult. It's very time consuming. So I think after 10, 15 steps, I said, nope, I'm not doing this. I can buy this action for literally $8 or $10. So I went and bought myself a bunch of actions. I don't remember the website. But anyway, and basically it all depends on how much processing power your computer has, literally, that's it. Okay, because it creates about 1,000 layers. And then you have to go through each layer and turning on and off and see what works, what doesn't work. But in a sense, you can create almost a full image, like almost ready to go image for like $10 action. And then learn more, put more time into how each layer works, and then you can create these kind of pictures. So in India, we have a festival called Holi, where we, well, when I say we, I never participated. I'm from South India. We don't celebrate it there as much. So basically, color powders. People come out wearing white clothes with all these colored powders and such. And some people play with the colored water. Some people play with the powders. And then they throw the powders on each other. By end of the day, you're drenching with different colors. Like they're not white clothes anymore. So this is a celebration of spring. It's called Holi, Holi. And then in around fall time, we also have another festival called Diwali. It's a festival of lights, where we have like firecrackers going everywhere. So again, it's a celebration of something like evil. God comes in a reincarnated form to kill evil person, and that's a celebration. So basically, good versus evil, good wins, and then celebrations, right? So I wanted to, again, represent that. How do I represent that? Like, so the Holi, the explosion of all these powders going everywhere, or the firecrackers going everywhere. But I still want to stay in the realm of my flowers. So that is the one of the factors. The other factor is there is a show called The Good Fight on CBS some years ago. I don't know if it's still going or not. If you ever watch this, go to YouTube and put Good Fight intro, and then it'll come up with lots of things exploding, just like the intro, the theme song, right? So that I needed to learn how to do that, and that's how the idea came from there. So now different forms of that. And then you can do multiple exposures. Multiple exposures, or you can do it in camera, if your camera will do it. And most of the cameras do, unless you're a Sony user. Tough luck, because I have Sony and Canon, and I hate Sony for that they don't want to bring multiple exposures. Anyway, let me show you some of the examples. Basically, in the film time, I think it was easier because you can expose the film like multiple times and get the multiple exposures. So it's the same concept in the digital world, except your camera is supposed to be like, have the feature to do that, right? So this is the out of camera and multiple exposures. I think there are 4 or 5. So it's an iris, and then just take one shot, 2, 3, 4, and then your camera automatically mixes it for you and gives you one image. And then if your camera has a feature, it also gives you the images in the background, whatever that 4 that gave you that composite. But when I showed it to a friend of mine, she has vertigo, and then she looks at it, I absolutely hate it. I'm like, okay, so what do you hate about it? Because it makes my vertigo worse. And I said, okay, what makes it better? And she said, I need something to look at, like my eyes can stay on that, because right now it's like going everywhere. So let me see. Okay, what I did is I did a multiple exposure shot, and then I did a straight shot. It can be done if you're on a tripod. And then I brought both of them into Photoshop as layers. What I did is I started off with this image in the bottom. I superimposed the multiple exposure image on the top, and then masked black. Using a white brush, I started bringing in the petals. So now you have best of the both worlds. Your eyes can stay on the leaves that are not moving, the stem and the center of the flower, whereas the petals are kind of having that dancing in the wind kind of look. So this is where I said, okay, so you need to have both the creative vision, and you also have to have the technical knowledge to do that. And this is like a little, similar approach. Take the multiple exposure and take a straight shot, And then if you see the center, that is sharp, but then if you see around, this is all kind of like, superimposed with like 5, 6 different exposures. This is completely done in camera, in the post processing. So I took the same image, made 5 layers, okay, in Photoshop. And then first layer, it's going to stay the same. Last layer stays the same. The layers in between, each one has different opacities, and then I rotate them just a little by little. Now the top image, I mask it out black all the way, just bring in this portion. That's it. So this can be done if your camera cannot do it, multiple exposures, this is something that you can do. By the way, this also prints very well. More of the multiple exposure examples. It can be a lot of fun. Now, people think that they have to photograph the entire flower. I would say, no, you don't need to. I'm going to run through these a little faster because I know we are running out of time. Plus, I have to drive back to Alexandria. And I have to go to work tomorrow. And this is shot actually on January 6th of last year. Okay, so again, you can shoot at home during winter. You don't have to leave your house and still, you can scratch the itch. That's what I would say. And this is done actually also middle of the winter, but in Longwood Gardens. Longwood Gardens, I don't know how many of you were there, but in this area, that's one of the famous gardens, right? So they have this section where at least there is 1 or 2 red heart pokers growing all the time, blooming pretty much any time of the year. So I love to spend some time there. Also, they have a hibiscus section. I love to spend time there. Again, if you see all these images, then you realize that none of these images are showing the entire flower, just portions of it, but it will still giving you the story, right? Also Longwood Gardens. This is also Longwood Gardens. So just to get this petal, first of all, okay, you know how when you're getting old and you sit down and you cannot get up, right? So if you want to go from here to there, what is the best way with your early coming? No, yeah, exactly. Drag your butt. So that's what I did in Longwood Gardens Conservatory. And look at what's happening with this lady. She doesn't look that old. But anyway, so this is the Christmas season. They have poinsettias everywhere. But I knew what I want. I want a petal that has a beautiful curve. I did not know what else I wanted in the background or anything. So that means I have to keep looking through the camera to get whatever that I wanted. So I spent almost 2 hours just to get this. And this is the only thing I shot that day. This is the only thing. It's crazy because it's a 2-hour drive from my house. So you drive 2 hours, spend 2 hours, get 1 or 2 shots, and then come back. But it is worth it, in my opinion. And this is tulip. Again, put on an extension tube on top of a macro lens because I wanted to highlight just this portion. Iris's neighbor's yard, I asked her if I can pluck it, bring it home. And then I put it in front of a black cloth. Yep. And these are begonias in a nursery. Gardenias make excellent abstract images if you really go close up. Anemones, that's what I say. I know that my accent is not right, but whatever. And then I go for leaves, but I don't like bugs very much, but I really like leaves. So, really springtime and the fall time to photograph leaves is the best time. More examples. Again, I bring the leaves home and then create my own little studio at home in my kitchen. And this is in the computer. So first I photographed with autofocus image and bring it to the computer and make that into the wallpaper. And then put these leaves in front of that background, and that's how I got this shot. So this is another one of those Longwood Gardens trips. I went really for these coleus. I don't remember the name of this, but I know that I wanted this kind of shots. So I went with one purpose, to photograph these, and I photographed nothing else. A friend who went with me really thought that I am the craziest person she has ever seen, because she was busy shooting, and then I was in one place, just one place, for almost like 2-3 hours. And then I said, yeah, we're done, let's go. So my goal was to create 2 images and then combine them. So I knew exactly what I wanted to do, but I needed to find that perfect specimen for it. So I did an ICM, which is, ICM means intentional camera movement. So I did a vertical pan. So that's one image. And then I photographed this budding leaf with background, whatever. Brought them into Photoshop, and then I overlaid. So I have the vertical pan, but then I also have the flower in there. But just to find this, and then to have the perfectly placed, because I cannot touch any of them, so I have to observe all these to make sure that I get the right one. So more of the leaves, again, and this is one of those black photo frames that I was talking about. I painted the spray painted the background, back of the glass, and then put the leaf on that. And then I did a black and white on this, and then black and white actually leaf does very well in my sales, but not this one. A lotus leaf, when you're done photographing all those flowers in the Kenilworth, definitely look for some kind of, leaves to photograph. With the backlighting, they look beautiful. These are just to give you ideas, right? That it doesn't have to be like a great subject for you to make a great photo out of it, definitely. This is something that I really don't enjoy, the bugs. Do you want more ideas? Or you guys are done? I have no problem. Like I said, I can speak, because I've been doing it for like 12 years now. I really have so much to offer. You know what? I'm going to save this for next time. Okay. So let's call it advanced flowers, and then I'm going to go for that. Is that good? All right. Okay. Any questions at all from anybody online?
There was just one quick question from Doug, but it wasn't about flowers. Mm-hmm. He was asking where your favorite place of worship is that you photograph.
Oh, so there are a few, but if I really have to say one only, there is a place called St. Joseph's Cathedral in Hartford, Connecticut.
Okay.
Floor-to-ceiling stained glass windows. It's modern look. You sit there, you don't know where the time goes. It's just beautiful.
He must have saw, you've got a lot of great places on your website.
Thank you.
You must
Thank
have
you.
seen that.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I think that's everything here, John.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now come on over here. I want to thank everybody for joining us. If you are interested in the Woods Church Gallery show, please get information to me as soon as possible. Don't forget, next week we have a digital contest on the theme of open. We will not be here. We will be online only. And then the field trip at the National Building Museum on Saturday, March 11th. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you guys next week. Christine is not near the button. Push the button.
Outstanding presentation.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Are you a member of the Mike Moats or for the club also?
No, but I'm speaking at his conference. I've already done once before, and then he invited me back. I'm doing it in October.
You going to the one in October? Oh,
Yeah.
Great. Probably see you there then.
Yes, okay.
Are we out?
Again with the metal.